The second.
The second, yeah.
The second.
That's his middle name.
That's kind of fun.
So yeah, so his name is blessed or holy, right? Same thing with Spinoza. When Spinoza left the synagogue, and he didn't really leave the synagogue gave him
The synagogue left him.
yes, because he didn't recant his arguments, that were anti-orthodox or contra. There's a heretical, right? But so when that happened, he changed his name to Benedict. The same, yeah, Benedict, which means, well, the eggs didn't get that name because they're holy eggs. I guess some guy named Benedict thought of how to make them that way. In his Nayatosh. But in any case, Barak means holy, and Benedict means holy in Latin, Benedictus, right? So while you were reading the Ethics, you probably thought to yourself, holy Spinoza, and you were right. What was the delivery on that? Pretty good? Yeah, that was pretty good. So we had, that was one of the reasons I voted for him, by the way, is because I thought, now, I remember we had terrorists, and I thought, now what are the terrorists going to say when our president's name is holy? In their language. I thought, that's pretty cool. However, I hate to say it, but one of the other reasons I voted for him was because I didn't want to vote for Hillary.
Oh, okay.
I should apologize, I suppose, but
It's March, man. It's Women's Month.
It's what month?
Women's History Month?
Women's History Month.
Yeah.
Said
Oh
that
my
on the
goodness.
month.
And I said it on camera. Which I said it. I didn't vote for Hillary twice. Once by standing at the middle school, Begich middle school, and joining the group on the one side, which was the bigger group, for Obama, and the smaller group, and they were all, what are you doing? Weird how that works. By the way, that was my first initiation into the Democratic Party. Democrat Party is an right? The Democratic Party, because we all drove into the Begich parking lot, and there were way more cars than would fit. And what happened was the newcomers came in and parked behind all the other ones, so that when it was time to leave, no one could leave. There was a parking jam, total, right? And I thought, the Republicans would never have a situation like this. Just never. And that's, kind of taught me, the thing about having a liberal party where everyone believes in free this and free that and free that and free this, and no one agrees on free what or how to do free or anything. The end result is no one's in agreement. Except they're all in disagreement. The Republicans are pretty clear. He said to do this. Okay, we're all going to do that. Yeah, it's kind of. But so he's holy. Why though? And this is pretty interesting. As a young man in the synagogue, in the class, the rabbis were absolutely impressed with him. He was so smart that they figured he would become their successor, right? That they were training him to become a future, teacher. Like I'm hoping all of you will become philosophy professors and carry on this good work. In any case, while the rabbis were so impressed with him, he was thinking to himself how wrong they were about everything. Because he was reading the same things and thinking, wait a minute, there's no way Moses wrote all 5 of these books, the Torah, right? Because of different aspects of the Torah that just didn't make sense to him. Actually, the easiest way to do this, I think I have some bullet points on Spinoza. That's the easiest way to get to it. Maybe not this. Are these notes helpful to anybody? Or are they just so old they need to be updated? I did that. But like some folks during one of the quizzes asked about the four forces of the universe and the angels and everything. And I talk about that in one of my notes and stuff. But Descartes, Hobbes, Spinoza. So Spinoza should be down here. We talked about Hobbes, the social contract, security, even the strong need, the contract, inalienable rights. We're still going to talk about that with Locke. Life, liberty, and property, commonwealth. The fool has said in his heart, there's no such thing as justice. I said all that. Okay. So, the Reformation, I didn't really talk a whole lot about the Reformation, which does tie in even with Spinoza, of course. And so I have just a couple of highlighted folks. John Wycliffe, English Bible. Follower John Huss, who was executed in 1415. If you're familiar with the Unitarian Universalists, they love pointing out that Huss was a Unitarian. John Knox, I mentioned him. And remember, he hated women, and he was especially against Queen Mary. Women should not be rulers, etc. Martin Luther, who gave the Bible in German, right? So that was one of the significant things he did. He translated the Bible into German. By the way, one of Martin Luther's followers went to the Netherlands to preach Lutheranism and was executed for it. So that's kind of intriguing. Because by the time that Spinoza is born, he's born in, I think, Amsterdam. But his parents fled from Spain. I think it was because El Cid had pushed the Moors out of Spain, and so it became a Christian country, and the Christians were a lot less sympathetic to people with other religions than the Moors had been. So the universities flourished in Spain under the Moors, and so the Jewish communities were doing very well there. But when the Moors were kicked out and it became a Catholic country, then you were forced to give up your Jewish religion and become Christian. And the thing was, even if you did, you were still never quite, a member of the party. We see how that works constantly. And the result was a lot of the Jewish community, the Sephardic Jewish community, left and went other places, and one of the main places they went was the Netherlands, because by then the Netherlands were in between Catholic France and Lutheran Germany. And notice the Netherlands, very good businessmen, really the empire at the time, and as a result they didn't prosecute people, but you still had to be careful. So the Jewish community was essentially safe from prosecution in the Netherlands. And so that became a big community there, and that's why the Spanish Sephardic Jewish community moved to the Netherlands. And by the way, that was actually at the time of King Charles, the Emperor of Spain, and really, I think, and the Netherlands. So the Netherlands were actually Spanish at that time, part of that time. Kind of interesting how all that ties in. In any case, Henry VIII, I mentioned him, that his first wife he wanted to divorce. The Pope wouldn't allow it, and so he separated the Church of England from the Catholic Church, took all the property, and divorced himself from Catherine, who he sent, yes?
Wait, is that any of us make a new Bible, like a new book, like covered for it?
No, but the King James Version was really associated more, of course, with the British Church. It was still not acceptable according to the Roman Catholic Church. They wanted everyone to be reading the Latin Vulgate or not, and that was a way of controlling, like Florida, who gets to study whatever. Sorry if you're from Florida. That's a current issue that we're seeing today. Okay. So the King James Bible, 1611. It was originally, much of the Bible was already translated. Not only Wycliffe, but there was the Tisdale Bible. I think I mentioned that we have a copy of that one in the library, and you could go and what's neat about it is there's a picture of him being burned at the stake for making the translation, etc. And the Inquisition, I mentioned that, the Jesuits, and the 30 Years' War, and Martin Luther's famous line, "Kill them all and let God sort them out." You can look that one up, and I think there's other individuals that have said that, so I'm not sure how that works. In any case, so Hobbes and Spinoza must also be viewed in light of the Reformation. And so let's move on to Spinoza. He studied the scriptures, the Talmud, and Jewish medieval classics in Hebrew. And then he moved on, and after he got kicked out of the synagogue, and he went and he studied with an ex-Jesuit. And that just sounds really weird to me. It sounds almost like you're saying an ex-Marine. There's no such thing. A Marine is a Marine even after he's retired, right? I'm retired Army, and I don't think of myself as still Army. But Marines are different. You know what I mean? Embrace the suck. They never give that up, right? But Jesuits are like the Marines in the Roman Catholic Church hierarchy and the orders. They're the ones that before you can become a Jesuit, you have to be a philosophy major, and you have to study all of the things that will make you wonder, is any of this true? And then get to the end of that process in order to become a Jesuit, right? So that's, and by then they're educators, kind of the militant, of that sort. It's very interesting. I have friends that studied with the Jesuits and were very impressed. They're terrific in scholarship and everything. So he studied with an ex-Jesuit and became acquainted with Descartes, Bacon, Hobbes, and the mechanistic science of nature. So he was expelled and cursed from the synagogue because of his heterodox. That was the word I was looking for earlier. And he did not renounce his Jewish heritage. The Jewish heritage renounced him. So that's kind of interesting to think of it that way. But it fits with his character, as we will see. And so he gave us the Tractatus Theologica Politicus, which just means a tractate. I guess that's the only translation of Tractatus. The only other one that I'm especially familiar with as being famous is Wittgenstein's Tractatus Logica Philosophicus, which we get in 1950, in that time period. But so he's going to apply this mechanistic science to Scripture. Remember how Hobbes applied it to psychology and sociology. Descartes applied it to the body, but also applied it to everything else. So we get this new tendency of putting Earth in a mathematical framework, that you can measure everything. And notice how it takes off and you end up with the Enlightenment gardens. Even bushes are shaped like, in Disney World, they're shaped like Disney characters. But, you know, in France, they were shaped like squares and, you know, different shapes and the whole garden. You looked at some of the, like the Versailles gardens. How many of you are familiar with any of those Versailles gardens? Not many. Interesting. You see various pictures of, you know, they're all mathematically arranged and everything. But you also get this idea that we can map the Earth. You know, just like, you know, Descartes wanting to draw a grid on the ceiling so he could map where the fly was going. We have grid work, you know, to basically map everything. And you get this Cartesian mapping system where, you know, now you have, if you've ever done art and you wanted to draw, oh, I love this picture, I want to draw it, and you try to freehand it and it's crap, right?